Hey everyone, welcome to Sequence of Instructions. I'm going to be doing a live coding exercise from LeetCode. This one's titled Valid Parentheses. Let's get into it. So, given a string containing just the characters, these characters, determine if the input string is valid. The brackets must close in the correct order, and those are valid, but parenthesis bracket or parenthesis bracket are not. Ooh, okay. Okay, let me think about this for a second. So, my first instinct is to store whether we're in one or not. So basically saying like having a parenthesis counter or curly brace counter and saying, okay, when we get an opening one, we add one. When we get a closing one, we subtract one. So this one would just be, and then making sure that at the end they all equal 0, and none are negative and none are positive. But would it solve this case? It would not actually. So this thing would say open, open. We don't know what order they opened in though. So if we got this one first, well in this case it's wrong, but if the, let me zoom in a little bit. If these first two are switched, when you got to this point, the state would be the same. They'd both be at the first counter, but in the switch case it's valid, and in this case it's not valid. So this wouldn't necessarily work. What's another way we can do this? I feel like that counting method has some promise. I'll just have to know that, like at this step, I would want to know maybe the most current one open. Yeah, so you can always open a new one, but when it comes to closing, you can only close the most current one open. So if I store not only that it is open, but also what the last open one is, then it would catch this case, right? So I think, well, I definitely want to do it in JavaScript because this channel is all about JavaScript. It's going to take the string and it's just going to return true or false. Okay, so let me give it one more thought over my head. Actually, let's just start hashing it out. All right, so I'm definitely going to want to iterate over the length of the string. So they give me the string as a variable s. So I'm going to iterate over the length of the string starting from 0. Let me get my counters here. Counter p for parentheses is going to be 0. Counter c for curly brace is going to be 0. And my counter b for bracket is going to be 0. All right, so I'm going to iterate through. I'm going to say if. So I'm going to make a note here. They don't say, they tell me that the string is only ever going to contain these characters. So I'm not going to do character checking. I'm not going to say like, all right, well, you know, what if it's not one of those? Because by premise of the documentation, it's always going to be that. So let me also say, yeah, let me just do this. So if, so we get the current character, var car, it's going to be hoisted. I'm going to have a character thing. Okay, so character, the current character is going to be s at I. So whatever character we're currently at, if character equals this guy or character equals this guy, then we're going to up the counter, counter p plus plus. We'll do the same for curly braces. So it is curly brace open or closing. Oh no, this is wrong. I'm already going the wrong way here. I have to do these individually. So if, I couldn't say if it's either one you add, because you said when we get a closing one you want to subtract. Okay, so if it's the opening, counter p plus plus, we're also going to have our var last opened, counter p plus plus, and last opened is going to be this guy. And then we just do the same thing for curly brace opening and bracket opening. So if it's open bracket or open curly brace, the last opened, oh, what am I looking for? What am I doing? Opened. Curly, curly, bracket, bracket. All right. These could all be else ifs actually, right? So else if just makes it a little cleaner, a little clearer. There's no need to check other conditions if you already found it. Else if car equals, not chat, car equals closing. What do? Counter P minus minus. Wait, so if it's closing, we check and last opened equals the opened, counter minus minus. Else if, let's copy this condition. The character is closing curly, and last opened was the open curly. Then counters curly minus minus. Else if, I have it in my clipboard. The character is the closing bracket. And our last open is the open bracket. Counter B minus minus. And I think in any other case, you just return 0. It is not valid. If we make it all the way through the loop, this is the end of my loop, we're going to return that counter P equals 0. I guess if we return here, we can return, yeah, counter P equals 0. This would be explicit. Let's just say not and not counter C and not counter, what's the last one? B. So basically we want to make sure that each one of them is 0 again. If any of them are not 0, it means they weren't closed. If any of them are less than 0, which would still be a truthy value, it means too many closings were found. But let me just run through this again. So again, the logic was, and maybe the logic's flawed, but in my mind, the logic is when you get to an opening one, you add 1 to that counter. When you find a closing one, you subtract 1 from that counter. And to make sure to account for this condition where it's the correct number, but they're in an incorrect order, let me initiate this to this. I don't think I need to, but just to be clear, basically accounting for the case where it's a closing as the first character. I don't think I need to do that, but I just like to. Okay, so that should account for this case. So let's see, is this going to work? Can we run it? Finished. That's your test. Okay, let's just submit it and see what happens. Wrong. Oh, return false. That was foolish. So I returned 0 instead of returning false in this bad case. That was dumb. All right, let's submit it now. Still wrong. What? We had our opening. Counter P went up. We had our other opening. Counter B went up. Our last opened. Next iteration, last opened. We returned false. Counter B minus minus. And then this closing. Oh. So I went about it the wrong way. Oh, that was foolish. So when you get to this one, the last opened is still going to be here. So instead of having a last opened, we need a stack. So that might even be all we need. Maybe I don't need these counters. But let me see. All right, I'm going to make a stack. It's just going to be an array. And basically, instead of saying last opened equals, we're going to push character. So we're going to push character. Here we're going to push character. Here we're going to push character. These should be semicoloned. And then basically else, we'll do this. Else, we're going to pop check else if our stack.length. So if our stack has length, what we do is we're going to last opened equals stack.pop. So make last opened appear again. And then in here we check if last opened, if car equals and last opened equals that. Yeah, so these can all be mostly the same, I think. In any other case, we return 0. So if, yeah, and this is also going to be a return false. So let me just run through this again in my head, or out loud rather. I have this stack, it's an array. It's basically just going to track the order of characters we're in. We're going to get the current character we're on, if it's that, and we want to make sure that there's nothing in the stack. I think we would just need to make sure that there's nothing in the stack. So I don't even think we need these characters. Yeah, we don't even need this. Yeah. So, I'm just trying to see how I can simplify this. Okay. Let's do this. Opening. No. I don't need these counters though. Okay, so character, we're going to push it. So let me do this. Or character equals here. Or character equals here. We're going to push it. Otherwise, we check. Whoa, don't do that. Otherwise, we check, do we have characters? What is going on? Otherwise, we check, are we in the middle of one? If we are, so else it's probably a closing. And there must be a stack.length. If there's not, we return false. We check the last opened one. If the character we're on is a closing and the last open is this, or character is that and last opening is that. Let me put these on their own line. Or character is this, last opening is that, or character is this and last opened is that, end it all. Everything is good, we just continue. So this is going to be continue, all's right with the world, else, return false, else they return false, and now we return stack dot length equals 0. I guess I could say return not stack dot length. All right, let's run it. Let's test this first guy. Finished. Good. Let's test this guy that we did wrong. Can I do a custom test case? So I got this one wrong before. So let's run it. So that did work. So let's see. Now I'm relatively confident it's going to work. And it did! Well, that was messy. So I completely missed the... I mean, it's one thing to miss edge cases where, like, you get the, you know, you get the false positive wrong. But it's another thing to miss, like, a correct case. You know what I'm saying? But after I saw that, I switched to, it's not just sufficient to track the last one and how many are opened. You need to track the history of them entirely. And so we did that with the stack. So let's see, can I see how I did? More details? How did we do? in the big scheme of things. Nice. So slightly above average. There's clearly ways to improve it. I think not having all those string literals, there could be better ways to check. Maybe the array is not the best way to do it. I don't know, but pretty good for first go, or second go as it were. Feel free to give this one a shot. Let me know how you guys do. Leave some comments, and looking forward to hear about it. Take care. Till next time.